Welcome, Starseeds. This is Dharani Akashic, Activation Catalyst, Oracle, Soul Guide, and fellow Starseed host for Unleash Your Cosmic Power, a podcast exclusively for Starseeds on a mission. This is the podcast to help you to unleash your cosmic power. We are the star beings, lovers of freedom, lovers of knowledge, lovers of life, who came to the planet with the intention to help liberate humanity from the fear-based chains of limitation and enslavement. Get ready, my fellow Starseeds, to embark upon the extraordinary adventure of being a human in a body on Earth. Together, we will dive deep into the mysteries of the universe to help you to remember your cosmic origins, explore the vast realms of consciousness, and help awaken you to your multidimensionality. We will be encouraging you to take that guided action from your higher self to fulfill your divine purpose and unlock your cosmic potential as you gain the courage to face everything that stands in the way of anchoring your divine expression and embodying your highest self to create a life that mirrors your soul desires, inner fulfillment, and an abundance of prosperity, love, and joy, just the way that you were meant to. Hey guys, I hope you're having a super fabulous day. I know I am. I've been waiting to record this podcast because I've had a bunch of stuff happen and a lot of things have been going on. I feel like I usually, the way that I structure these is I have this outline of things that I want to talk to you about, and then I kind of go off of it and then I come back onto it. And so usually it's based off of the things that I have been facing throughout the week, or things that have been coming into my consciousness that I feel would benefit everybody to know about. And so usually that's what I'll share with you. And if I get to recording the podcast, like every week, like I wanted to, then it would make a lot more sense, and I think they wouldn't need to be as long. So hopefully I could try to keep it a little bit shorter, because I know not everybody has like 2 hours to listen to things. And but it's been a while, right? Since the last one that I recorded. And so I feel like the range of things that have happened and the awareness that has come into my field since then is huge. So if you remember before, I was feeling like pretty victimized almost, and I'm not a person who like dwells on victim energy at all, even though I might have mentioned that I felt like upset or kind of like the whole world, whole universe was plotting, which is kind of true in a sense. But I'm not a proponent of like staying stuck in victim energy. Like, feel what you got to feel and then, transmute it as quickly as you can. That's my preference. So I was feeling pretty victimized from like analyzing my charts, analyzing everybody's charts. And then what happened is that I went beyond that, right? Because I'm always asking people to go beyond whatever anybody shows you, whatever anybody tells you. Like, look within the layers of truth, because that's how it is. Truth is layered. So there's the surface level. It's kind of like reading between the lines, right? So you can read in between the literal words that people say to you. You can read their body language. You can read the energy. You can tell a lot through the tone of somebody's voice. The subconscious is more adept at picking these up, but it's like there's micro gestures that they will make that communicate something to your body. So even if you're not in the same room with a person, you can still, like, if you're really energetically sensitive, you can sense the energy with which something was written, the way that somebody wrote it. I can sense where these things come from. And so when I read writings of different teachers and I can tell that it's infiltrated, then I'll stop at that part. And then I try to analyze, like, where does it actually align to truth? And so while I was reading everybody's charts and I was feeling super victimized, I went past that, because I like to look at everything that I possibly can, because I really believe in finding the truth. And the truth is clear. And not only that, but you feel like you're putting the puzzle together, and it just makes you feel happy. And it's not like you'll ever arrive at a finite truth. There will always be more and more and more layers, which is how complex and beautiful everything is. It's such an amazing reflection of the reality that we exist in, and the reality of God, truly. So I went past everybody's chart that I had been looking at, and then I found something that was really awesome, which is that, since I told the GC that I wasn't really going to be working with them, and there's so many different ET groups, because I felt like they were treating me like a video game character. Like, they just wanted me to do certain things and not really care about how it impacted me that much, because in a sense they're like, well, it's just a video game character. Okay, you got hurt. That's kind of the attitude that I felt they were taking. And I felt really like upset about that, because it's like, okay, so I had this crazy childhood, and so that kept my psychic gifts open, and like my heart pieces, my womb pieces, like everything was put basically all the trauma that I've been through was obviously for a reason, and there are gifts that come out of that. Like I'm very good at being able to travel like out of body, like just to move my consciousness through the various constructs and realities that exist, probably due to my trauma, or the way that I needed to do that in order to survive. And this is how a lot of people get their psychic gifts. And unfortunately, that's how it used to be, because it is generational. And so there's different time windows in which we all came. And so I was kind of upset in a way, and I've forgiven it, of course. But I was sort of like thinking like, well, why should I even help you? Like, even though part of it is aligned with God's mission, it's just that certain groups of ETs might have a different agenda, in the sense that some of them want to prolong the existence of the fallen matrix because they're trying to retrieve as many souls as possible so that nobody is left behind, so that there's nothing left here except for the ones that choose to stay. And even then, I don't even know if they'll let them stay. Like, either they'll probably be like destroyed and turned to dust and return to God that way, or something else will happen. So there's different ET groups that are more interested in almost like keeping the portal to this place open so that we can reclaim as many souls as possible and bring them back to the organic matrix of creation, of the way that God originally designed for us to the original playground that God made for us, right? So everybody got lost in this like weird vortex. Okay, so we're getting retrieved and brought back into God's original playground. And so I was feeling a little bit upset. I went past everybody's chart and I found that they actually do care about me, because what I found is that I do realize that they've saved me multiple times throughout my life. Like, God has saved me. God has intervened in my life to save me. And even with the chart thing, I saw someone's chart that, I saw multiple people's charts where I could see that they were being influenced and guided by specific, I'll say archetypal characters within our mind framework of understanding what these energies are. And so these helped to impulse those people in my life to help me and to save me in very specific circumstances. So going beyond just seeing how people were impulsed to hurt me, I also went into seeing how people were also influenced and impulsed by the GC and by God to save me, to save my life. And I became so thankful for that. I was so like, I don't know, my heart just expanded, and I was just like, okay, I'm starting to see more and more of the bigger picture. Thank you so much for being patient with me here. And so what I was being told, and part of this had to do with that Gemini moon that we had a little while ago when some of this was happening. And so what happened around that time is that the negative planets that had been blocking me were blocked. And so the natural essence of my guidance system was able to like permeate my life and emerge. Whereas normally when these things, the negative ETs are influencing me and everybody else around me, or not me specifically, but my life, that's when I have all these obstacles and struggles. And that is a big chunk of my lifetime. Like, that is a huge chunk. And so there's specific points within this construct of time where the timelines do shift, where the planetary alignments allow for the negative forces in the universe to be blocked, and then God can truly speak to you and emerge into your consciousness, and you'll come to the awareness of understanding things more deeply. So that's what was happening to me. And it's kind of funny sometimes to realize how, like, you know, there's people that are blocked at the times that I feel super open, and then, you know, when I feel super open, sometimes like I'll know what sort of planets and who's influencing who based on like what they're posting and how their day is going. And it's not to judge anyone, it's just like, oh, okay, so this person's more influenced, even if I don't know anything about their birth chart. So what they were telling me is that when things have you down and you keep pushing and you keep releasing and healing and forgiving and letting go, sooner or later, the planets will and they do align. And that's just the nature of reality here, that it happens in cycles. And so you're coming up now, you're coming into awakening because this is the ascension timeline. Whereas before it was more about just falling asleep and tragedies occurring over and over. And so it's almost like the energy is shifting to allow more light in. And by light, I obviously mean truth. I mean the illumination of knowledge, of knowing who and what you truly are. And so you will have these pockets of clarity. And on those days when there's planetary alignments, as we continue on this timeline of ascension, of awakening, you will have the ability to make quantum leaps within your growth. And the thing is that the good is woven in this way into the timelines, because if you think about it, like straight edges, it's like 180 degrees, right? That's like one straight edge from one point to another. So if you have like if you're infiltrating a system and you have a straight edge path and you're like, that's where I'm going, and your approach is not flexible, then that gives the dark forces a very easy target, because if you think of like a rigid stick, that stick is very easy to fracture. You just snap it. You know exactly where you could push it and it'll snap. But if instead you're trying to dismantle a system and you do, instead of using a straight path, you go in trines, which is also really harmonious in astrology. So that's how the light and the darkness are woven together, because as the light begins to transmute the darkness, it does it in these strategic points where it becomes a lot easier for multiple people, multiple parts, multiple systems to be dismantled, awakened, restructured, and alchemized all at the same time. So if instead you work with the harmonizing principle that is already woven into the fabric of reality, the trine, and you weave the efforts into what is already here so that it is layered upon impact, then you're not only affecting the good people, but you're also affecting the negative souls, the souls that have been feeding on negativity. And this happens in spirals, okay? So like the spirals, these spiralized trines are how everything is moving through the cosmos. Like nothing is ever standing still. And so how you fight evil and transmute as much as possible is you dance and you weave yourself in through that darkness with your light. So if you have a strategy, try to break it up into trines. So think of like a pyramid Merkaba. So the goal is the vertex on the other side, right? And so if you move your consciousness along the edges of a Merkaba, this is a lot more harmonious because you're in the world of forms, and this is how energy moves into the physical. You have to move along the edges and you do it in trines. And so the thing that you have to realize is that every time that you choose something that is it's like you're really loud and it's just one point and you're inflexible and you break down and you give up as soon as that strategy is targeted by the dark forces, then you're not moving in a trine. And so what I mean is like you have to have at least 3 different strategies for you to achieve a goal, because you have multiple options, and at the same time you know that no matter what happens, you're not going to give up. So at the same time that some people are having a hard time and others are having an easier time within this reality, we have to understand that we are all playing a role. We're playing characters within this finite game, right? Because God loves all of creations. God loves the demons because there's no separation. It's just energy that has translated itself into, I guess, misbehaving, right? Like God loves even the naughty children. And so that's something that we have to understand, is that as the time cycles through and there's timelines where the good disappears and it's broken down and crumbles, there's also planetary alignments and timelines of awakening where the light begins to emerge and where the light begins to win. And so if you have been aligned to some of these dark and negative forces, you might see a lot of chaos in your life. And this is your opportunity to align with light beings, because we need each other to make it all the way to the end. And you are essentially like, if you're having a hard time, like seek out somebody that is of the light who can help you, because we are here to help each other. You're essentially, you're the holy chalice. You are the holy vessel. And you have to find a way to open your heart to receive the blessings of the embodiment of your soul on earth, so that you can do here what you are meant to do and retrieve the lost pieces of yourself. Because this is what causes the ripples that awaken other beings around you. And as this starts to happen, as the people around you start to awaken, you might actually trigger some of their darkness and chaos to come out. Like, I know I don't know if it's like fortunately or unfortunately. We'll say it's fortunately. I'm coded to make the evil just come out of hiding. And I believe it's because then it can't hide and it has to be transmuted, or something has to happen. But if when I make the evil stuff come out, then like it is addressed, like it is sent back to where it came from. It is sent to a harmonious timeline, or the timeline where it belongs, the dimension where it belongs. Like, that's what I do with evil forces. I'm like, well, generally, I'm just like, you gotta go. And so I'll just open up the portal and send it through. But this can be kind of bad for me sometimes, because that means that my coding generally goes around, and it's kind of like, sometimes it can be a magnet for certain kinds of evil or negativity, because I'm meant to bring it out so that it can be healed. So a lot of times people might find my energy a little bit too intense, and I don't mean for it to be intense. I'm just being myself. It's just within the intensity, even if I'm not saying anything. Sometimes it's just like, if I'm shining and just like being happy and like feeling all my love, and I'm just like walking around, like people will just like either love me or hate me, and they'll just like, aim a bunch of negativity at me, or try to place obstacles in my path, or like discriminate against me because I'm like super happy or something. And even with like roommates that I've had, like it'll just bring out the evil in them if they see me thriving or something. And it's just kind of like, because that they have wounding that needs to be healed, that needs to be transmuted. And so I can either take the approach of helping them to heal that, depending on who it is, or I just help them to notice that there's something there that needs to be healed. And so that's kind of like what the light does, really, and which is another reason why we've been really targeted, is that like we bring out, through our own lightness, we bring out the aspects of people that need healing, which can be very painful, especially if people think that they don't have access to your light, or that they don't have access to your to the places where you're able to travel. If people love you and then they see that you're going really far, like out of your body, off world to a different planet, then like that could cause fear in people who aren't fully understanding that, we're everywhere at once and love is eternal. And so it can cause them to go into fear and cause you harm. And so there's all kinds of things that happen. But overall, if you're starting to have a hard time as the awakening and ascension timelines continue, I would suggest that you hire a teacher that is of the light to help you through it. Because specifically right now, what I'm seeing is that, and I don't even like to do like timelines, this is what's happening next, because I feel like they're always changing, and it just changes too frequently for me to even like really want to pin it down. But what I see happening is that a lot of people who have been in power have been aligned to negative dark forces. And yes, you can trace this back to the birth chart. Like there's some really evil placements and elements in people's birth charts sometimes. And they'll cause a tragedy, but then they'll make you rich and like give you a bunch of money or something. And so even beyond that, like there's the DNA of our families. But if you've been in power, or if you know a lot of people that have been in power, a lot of times that can come because at some point you or your ancestors or your lineage or DNA was aligned to some of the evil forces in the universe that stole the codes of the divine creator, that hacked up Sophia, that hacked up the goddess, and took her divine creation codes, stuck them into black cubes to create their fallen matrices. And And this is probably why they're like in power right now, because they aligned to the darkness at the time that the darkness was the main power. But when you align, as that is crumbling now, you might have a lot of chaos in your life, either because you or your ancestors were aligned to that, and so now the things that were holding you up start to crumble, and so you have to reach to the light and to the people who have probably been a lot more disempowered because they had their codes stolen, because they had their land stolen. And so you have to give it back to the rightful owner. Like the energies that you have, the wealth and the riches that isn't rightfully yours, it's just going to keep crumbling until you actually return all energy to the rightful owner. And that's just what happens. And I know it's going to be different timelines and different cycles for everyone, but that's what I'm seeing. It's that, like, if you carry the DNA that is coded for energy that is not yours, that is aligned to evil, then it's going to be really sketchy and unstable. So right now it is the time when both the light and the dark are sort of in this crumble building phase, which is perfect for divine source to step in and provide both the light and the dark with the necessary ingredients, the necessary energy, the necessary structures for you to choose to rebuild with the light, with alignment, with giving back just the energy that isn't yours. And it doesn't mean that that you're going to die. It just means that you have to remember how to hook back into God's source so that you can continue to be nourished. And one of the ways that you can do this is by helping to support the people who are aligned to God. And there's so many different teachers out there. And just find somebody that resonates with you and see if they have anything that they can offer you. Even beyond that, it's not even about teams. It's just about things crumble because then you can insert new coding and you can create something new. And so as the light and the dark begin to align in such a way, you have to remember that even past that, there's a level where there's like that forgiveness and reconciliation that occurs that basically neutralizes the polarity of right and wrong, of evil and good. And it's like that void. And this is something that everybody must go through before they can reach the next universe. It's the point where everything is basically like erased and forgiven, and everything is brought into wholeness, into the wholeness and truth of who you are as a child of God. You have to, at some point, we're all going to neutralize our polar consciousness. And we're going to relinquish everything that we thought was true. We're going to release all thoughts, all ideas, all constructs that belong to this particular time matrix and universe. And we're going to be made completely new. But you must traverse, when it's the right time, that void of complete stillness, of complete wholeness, where there is no polarity, where you finally are able to reclaim the truth of all of your pieces that were left here, all of the pieces that were still stuck in the timelines of polar consciousness, of playing the winner, of playing the loser, of playing the giver, the taker. All of those are going to be recalled back into wholeness, which a lot of times can feel like a void of darkness to people. It could feel like a void of emptiness. And this is the emptiness this is essentially like your Buddhic self. When the evil forces on the planet try to tell you that there's light and darkness and that it doesn't really matter, they are sort of twisting it, because it does matter. The thing is that at some point before you can reach the next universe, you will have to reconciliate those two, erase everything you know, come into the void of complete stillness, of complete emptiness. You forget everything that you were. And by forget, I don't mean that you don't know. I mean that you stop placing your consciousness into individualized forms, into individualized little packets of existence here. Within that stillness, you can actually finally understand who and what you truly are, and what God is, and what the purpose of this universe and this matrix was, and how amazing and beautiful it is for God, which is you, which is the totality of you, to have allowed this crazy, from human terms, experience, this traumatic, like wildly beautiful, wildly chaotic experience, and to be able to come back into that wholeness and that peace and that complete state. That void is the void of the mother. It's the mother's womb. It's the egg. It's like beyond all of the dimensions that contain this universe, so that we can get to the next level. And the way that I got to this was through meditation, of course. And I'll share that experience real quick. It's I went past the 15th gate, and what I mean by that is, like, I went past the 12th dimension to the 13th dimension to the 14th to the 15th. And when I got to the 15th, it was like the eye of God met me, and I wrote this little poem. I opened the 15th gate to the eye of God. Peace, emptiness. I met the one whose consciousness is projected into this construct. Have you ever felt the peace of clarity and complete emptiness? This construct is made of illusory projections from the eternal consciousness to experience fullness. But to bring myself into the eternal consciousness, complete clarity, complete peace, complete emptiness, complete all in one, all projections flowing to source, thankful but no words, peace beyond all concepts of understanding, unity into all. That is the 15th gate, meaning there's a beyond. I just felt it. And so what this place felt like is, it felt like coming to a precipice, or coming into a dimensional void that was empty. And it was empty because there was no thoughts being projected. It's that relinquishing of all you have built, all ideas and all concepts, all limitations. And it's acceptance of being nothing, of being everything, of being contained within the all. And it felt like complete peace. It's not an emptiness that can be understood by the human perception of an empty cup. It's an emptiness that can only be understood by complete fullness, complete wholeness. And that's why it's such an interesting paradox. But I do remember from one of my other very deep meditations that I did, obviously I didn't go beyond the eye. I don't know if I would have been allowed to, as much as I'd want to sometimes. But it was beautiful to just get to that very, very, very edge, that tipping point, and see this complete stillness. And what I saw, which is very interesting, it felt like we were in some sort of egg. And my guides have shown me there's like lots of universes and lots of eggs, and the dragons within them. But it felt like God's consciousness was peering at me through this hole, through this void. It just felt like, it's like if God had like an egg in his hand, and there was like a little hole, and it was looking into the hole and seeing what was in it, and trying to think about stuff. I don't know, that's what it felt like. It was just like looking at that eye, like looking at the eye of God, and seeing the perfect, beautiful, like, tunnel, that void, that blackness. It was just amazing. And so in understanding all of this, what I understood is that it's that, like, love is not just like, oh, Venus conjunct this, like the typical markers that you find in birth charts. It's not Venus. It's not like some other asteroid. Love is, does this person bring you opportunities that further your goals, that help you in your business, that help you in your endeavors? Do the people around you that claim to love you, do they actually support you? Do they help you with the things that you need help with? Do they ask you how you're doing? Are these people demonstrating their love authentically, because it's not just saying like I love you. A lot of times people will say I love you as an excuse to, as an apology. And that kind of like has made me angry in the past where like, and my son does this too, and I don't even know why. He's 5. I don't know where he learned it, because I don't do this, and I don't really associate with too many people that do. But it's like he'll do something naughty, and then he'll be like, "I love you," like almost to like recall, to have me remember that I love him, and so I shouldn't like punish him, or like, I mean, not that I really do, but there's that. It's like how we use love as humans is so not what love is. Like, my understanding of love comes from like multi-dimensional levels that I know are kind of hard to understand on a human level, and sometimes I don't even know if my personal human vessel that I love can truly understand that kind of love. But the way that I feel it's like it's based off of freedom. But anyways, I don't want to get too off topic, because I want this to be practical for you. And I just want you to ask yourself, if the people in your life, if you feel like they actually love you, are they doing things for you that actually contribute to your life, that are nourishment? Are they a source of nourishment for you? Not because you're leeching off of them, not because you're refusing to help yourself, but are they nourishing you because they love you, because they have extra energy to just exude from them being themselves? Like, are you getting that? Are these people blocking negativity from you? Are these people protecting you? And so does this person, the people in your life, are they distracting you from your true soul calling and purpose? Or are they bringing you closer to it? Because that's love. That is real love. And it goes beyond synastry. It goes beyond sexual chemistry. It goes beyond fun, beyond compatibility on some sort of chart. It's beyond being together in one lifetime. Soul purpose reigns over all when the king of your heart is God. My heart belongs to is one, and it's in the heart of God. So how is the energy of all that is able to flow through you? Because that is your coding. That's just the frequency you bring as God filters through you and all of your programming. That's the energy of God. That is the energy of all that is being channeled through your vessel into your particular filter and the construct of who you are. You are that crystal that is filtering the light. And we are unified solar light coming to reclaim our solar consciousness. So every time that you choose to have people around you who are not there to serve God, to be the light that they were meant to be, and encourage you to be the light that you are, every time that you choose something that is not of your higher self's guidance, that's essentially martyrdom. That is the act of self-hatred. That is self-destruction. Even if it's a loving action to a person that you know is not good for your soul, and that loving action carries the energy of love from your being to them, if you know that this person is not good for you, then that loving action is also carrying the energy of self-betrayal and martyrdom, because you know they're bad for you, and you know that they're going to stall your soul purpose, and you know that they're just going to be a drain on your energy source whenever you give to them. And so you're essentially throwing your energy into the trash, into the pit of snakes that will one day eat you. And do you really want to be feeding the snakes that are meant to kill you? And I know that sounds crazy when you put it like that, but just don't. Like, the thing is that maybe it doesn't kill you in one bite. Maybe it doesn't deliver all its poison at once, but it's like poison nonetheless, and it's slow poison. So I want you to look at the things that are slowly poisoning you, that are slowly stalling you, that are taking your energy away from your purpose and from the things that you're meant to be doing. And what are they? Who are the people in your life that are actually presenting opportunities for you to be more of who you are? Who are the people that are calling the light in you to come out, to be amplified, to be expanded, so that you can radiate and shine the way that you were meant to? Who are those people? Those are the people that you need to have in your life. Who are the people that want to constrict you, constrain you, make you fit into a tiny little box of confinement, of not being able to express your love, your light, your joy? Who are those people? Get rid of them. they're not meant to be in your life. And if anything, they're just like the doors that you're meant to break through, so that you know that when they're no longer in your life, you don't choose to continue to manifest more people that are going to contain you, that are going to block you from actually achieving your soul's mission. And your soul's purpose is not just your soul. There is the DNA lineage that you decided to incarnate into, but it is collective, it is planetary, it is your soul group. It's bigger than you. And so if there's like this is how I see it. When there's people in my life who are blocking me, or who are presenting obstacles to me, or who do anything that is going to hurt me purposely, like, I don't need to wish them anything bad to happen. It just kind of does, because the way that it's set up, it's like and maybe it's like coding that I have, but it's like if someone helps me, that is a blessing for all of life. That is a blessing for everything. That is a blessing for the world, because I know that my heart is in a good place and I know who I am. If somebody is stalling me and blocking me because they're jealous, or because they have some misconception of who they think I am, then that person is not just blocking me as an individual, or trying to attempt to block me. They're actually trying to block something that is much larger and bigger than myself, because I'm not just one being, or like one person. I don't even think I came here for the purpose of having specifically human experience, even though there's lots of beautiful things that I might want to experience. I have a bigger purpose. And so essentially, if people are blocking me, I'm just like, well, you're blocking this big, giant mission, and so you'll have to deal with those consequences. It's not me. It's the actual like mission of intergalactic beings. And I know that the evil forces in the universe that are influencing those people, I know that it's like bigger players. It's not just like these two little human vessels interacting. It's like these two human vessels, their soul family, their guides, the intergalactic beings that are influencing them on a larger level, all sort of like beaming their energy down in through those people to affect the person and their actions and whatever is going on here on Earth. But I want you to know that it's not that you need to wish anybody evil. I think forgiveness is amazing. That is what we are meant to do. And that is the point of neutrality, when you can like accept that the hardships that people put you through and the blocks and the obstacles are also part of the gift. Like, there is always the gift encoded in there, because that's how God works, what we were talking about before, like those trines. And I may have talked about this before, but one of the very first places that I went to when I was being taken on these ships in my dream state, it's like astral travel, was this big giant auditorium. And there was like this giant, sometimes, there's different things on them. This one time there was this giant green face. It kind of looked like that face from Snow White, like that big mirror. And it was this almost like AI type of being. And it was, you know what? Maybe there are beings that look kind of like that are just kind of like a giant face, but it's more like the outline of a face, because I've seen different kinds of those. I've also seen like violet purple ones. It's very interesting. So on this ship, there was like a bunch of souls, and I'll just say it's like this giant auditorium, and we were being shown how the ego is constructed. So first you forget everything that you know you truly are, and then you make up something about yourself, right? And so that's where they get you with like all of this programming, or you can download different things into yourself. But when you look at people's egos, it's like, it's not just your two little egos fighting. You have to understand that people are connected to larger things. And so when I've had people be like angry at me for no reason, or I've had a lot of it, like people have discriminated against me in like the past just because they were just jealous or something. And even though I had no intention of doing anything to them or to whoever they thought they were in love with, it's just, you're putting yourself up against really large beings. And when you stall someone's purpose, that can have a heavy karmic debt, because especially for someone like me, like you're not just holding one person back. It's like all of the people that they are meant to help, which I guess is also why the darkness wants to step in and try to stall those specific people, because they could see how many other people they would be helping, how many, like what kind of an impact they would be having. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't let your little ego self block the healing of millions of people. And if you're angry at someone, or if you're jealous of someone, don't allow your tiny ego version that isn't even really the real you, because the real you lacks nothing, to stall and block the healing of so many others. You're not just dealing with one person. You're dealing with multiple people. You're dealing with the DNA of the ancestors. You're dealing with what they're healing. So don't try to just direct all this negativity at one person. If you do start doing that, then definitely try to catch yourself there. And in the same way, when people are sweet and good and kind to you, even if they didn't mean to be kind, maybe they're just being themselves. Maybe it was just like a stranger smiling at you at the grocery store. Maybe it's just people being who they are that can help to inspire you or bring you joy. Like I love just saying thank you so much, like within my heart. Even this is gonna be kind of funny, but even when people like randomly turn me on, I'm just like, oh, thank you for that. Like, I'm not like directing energy at them. It's just like, thank you. That felt inspiring to me, and I'm just gonna let this energy swirl through my being and up through all my chakras. Thank you. Like, it's just there's this it's like a way for the energy to continue to ripple out, which kind of also brings me to just let you know that a lot of times the negative energies that we carry, if we don't clear them out, it's like someone's negativity, someone caused this negative energy ripple, right? And so it touches all these other people, and then they go around, and it's like they're still carrying that energy, and then they go out and then they transfer that energy to everyone else that they interact with, for as long as that energy continues, for as long as there's charge there. And so you could do the same thing with positivity. Like, when people are being really kind to you, you can allow that to expand within your being. And I love doing that. It's kind of like, I think I might have mentioned this before, but maybe it was like in an article where I called it like milking the joy and the happiness out of every tiny little thing. Like, if there is a small thing that you appreciate, then like really, really dive into it and appreciate that. Like right now I'm looking at the leaves of the trees outside, and they're green, and I love how green they are. And I love how all of the branches are so symmetrical and wild at the same time, and the way that all of the leaves are moving in the wind, and how it almost looks like they're dancing. And I love the silhouettes of the trees and the branches crawling up into the sky, and how there's banana trees and an avocado tree and a palm tree, and there's tall grass, and I'm in Hawaii, and there's flowers, and it's just beautiful. So you can choose to focus on the negative points and allow the negativity to expand, or you can choose to just try to give it to source, forgive it as much as you can within that moment, and then just like focus on something good and allow that to expand, and allow yourself to not be stalled and blocked by random people doing things to you. I know sometimes that can be hard, but this is essentially freedom. This is what I mean. And this is why I wanted to title this podcast Freedom, because this is really what I was going to talk about. Our ability to be ourselves under any circumstance, any situation, at any point, regardless of what anyone else is doing, is true freedom. Regardless of what time matrix and what universe you are placed in, that you find your consciousness, you're still able to bring through and channel and stream and ground the totality of your being and who you really are at soul, regardless of what is going on around you. So for example, I'm a really, really loving person. I'm a really loving, creative, and inspired kind of being. And so on earth, there's specific times when that's appropriate, when that's not appropriate. So if I don't find a way for me to express those aspects of my being, I start to feel really restricted and really unhappy almost, because I have this like implosion happening where the energy that I am isn't able to radiate out. And so it just sort of like, it's almost like, it literally is like, it feels like imploding, which can sometimes humans will express this as depression, but I don't feel like I ever get depressed. I get like weirdly imploded. I don't know how to explain it. I get lethargic, which is not really my energy. I'm very, very energized, especially when I'm streaming. And so what I had been trying to do more of recently is find ways to allow the creativity and the love that I am to just shine through, because it's really weird on earth how there's only specific times that you're allowed to do that here. There's only specific people that you're supposed to share this kind of energy with, which is fine. It's totally good. It's just I think for me, the level of love that I can channel and give and exude can be misguided towards the wrong people. I mean, they're not the wrong people. They are the right people, but they have the exact, and this is the thing, we will always exactly attract the people who match our wounding until we've healed it, right? So if, for example, it feels safer for you to attract partners that don't love you back because you have this inner fear of being contained and suppressed because your early childhood experiences with your parents or your primary caregivers were those of suppression, containment, maybe like suffocating you in some way, then you have this negative concept of love where like maybe you really want to love someone and you want to be in a good relationship, but then you choose not to love people who would give you an experience of love because your subconscious programming reflects that of your inner child's programming, which is because it hasn't been healed, which is that you associate love with being constricted, constrained, boxed in, stifled, and suffocated. And so you will probably attract people that don't care for you or can't care for you or can't love you back or you can't be in a relationship with them because it's just reflective of that. And so then what happens is that you have to find different ways of expressing that love within your being, because if you don't, then you probably would have that implosion. And so this happens with a lot of avoidant people. And until you heal that, it could be hard for you to even like conceptualize being with someone like long term or having a happy relationship, because on some level you think that it is safer for you to not be with anyone. And I know I have certain traits of that, and I know many other people do as well. And there's different variations of this. But essentially that's like a self-imposed type of caging, right? So if we're trying to be free beings, then we have to sort of like expand to the level that we can and understand where our walls are so that we can then choose whether we want to go beyond them or not, and how those walls need to be deconstructed or healed, or how you can melt them or dissolve them. And so something that I've been playing a lot with is I, like anyone else, I just want to be free as can be. And people definitely use the words that anybody says and filter them through their own being, just as I'm filtering Source speaking through me right now, right? But what I mean by freedom is not like go and be sexual with like every single being. That's freedom. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying I want the kind of freedom for myself that is the type of freedom where I can do what I am impulsed to do by direct guidance from Source. So if, for example, like I want to go and take a walk in the forest, or just be by myself for a few hours or a few days, like no one's gonna have an issue with that, right? Or if I want to go make art, or if I want to play music, or if I want to just really deeply dive into whatever it is I'm doing, there's nothing blocking me or stopping me. Or if I feel like I want to be social and I'm in a social mood, then I can easily just socialize with people and be in a social mood or in a social setting. And I don't have to like suppress who I am to, not make a lover angry or someone else angry. That's what I mean by freedom. By freedom, I mean the ability to be a clear vessel, a clear conduit that can stream whatever my higher self chooses to stream at that moment, whatever my higher self is inspired to communicate, to be within that moment. So for example, another block that many people have, including myself at certain points, is like the whole public speaking thing. So I have a lot to share and a lot to say, but I feel like sometimes it's harder for me to speak in large crowds. And I actually don't know if that's true, because I don't think I've ever really done it. But I know with my sales job, there was like a group of like 7 people. So generally I have to I have another job where I sell things and I have to present different products to people. And so when I'm presenting these things, there's usually like 2, sometimes 4 people, but for some reason they put like 2 families together in this one. And so there was this, like, maybe it was even more than 7. I don't know. There was a bunch of people. And so when it was a bunch of people, I actually got really happy and energized. And it was so fun. And I was able to just like share stuff with them. And they were all like really engaged. And when you have group consciousness that is like fully drawn in and getting the message, that can feel so good. And so I thought, wow, you know what? Maybe I just don't have big enough goals with speaking, because you are speaking to one person and you are sharing your heart with one person, which is that one in every single one amid a crowd of like millions, we'll say. And so sometimes I wonder, like, maybe the goal isn't big enough for me to actually like be like, whoa, I need to ground this energy down and actually clearly say and channel the messages that are coming through for so many different people. And I think that happens with a lot of people's goals as well. Like I was telling my friend who was kind of like having some issues with his business, and I was telling him how his goals aren't big enough. Like he's just not driven to succeed and to overcome the hurdles that he's having right now, because he's not being pulled by a vision. It's almost like when we implode, and when those aspects of ourselves, whatever the aspects are, it could be creativity, it could be something else completely, it could be travel, it could be whatever aspect of yourself is not being expressed. If that gets to the point of implosion and you get depressed and you no longer want to look outside yourself and you don't have a vision and you can't visualize yourself or see yourself in any type of fun setting, and you're just dealing with you're like trudging through the heaviness of life, you're not being called by your vision. And so everything becomes a struggle. And that's, if this is you, then it's helpful to go outside, neutralize, do what you need to do to get happy, and find a trampoline. Trampolines are so fun. Let your inner child come out and play. I know it's so freaking hard sometimes, but find a trampoline. I think that really works. And whatever it is that you want to go do. And allow yourself to get to a place where you can imagine being happy, because sometimes people are so depressed that they cannot imagine being happy. They cannot imagine a life beyond the struggle, which can be a really hard place. So I was telling my friend, you need to work on your vision, like in the kindest way possible, of course, because he wasn't being pulled by a vision. So everything was super hard for him right now. And he's been through so much that I didn't think that he was really going through. He was just at this place where, like, what is the vision, right? Like, what is the point? Like, all these crazy things were happening. And so if that's you, remind yourself that it is possible to be who you are at soul here. And that's kind of the point. That's kind of the challenge. And that's something that I can really struggle with too sometimes, because everything that I say, it's not just for you, it's also for me as the human that is living this consciousness that is here on earth with all of you. And so my higher self and my guides will tell me things that I want to share with you immediately because I think they're helpful. But I'm also working on a lot of these things myself. Like the whole thing with developing vision. I feel like the number one drive for me is definitely like my soul purpose and mission. And sometimes I can be such a clear vessel for others because contrary to what a lot of people believe, I actually don't feel like I have a big ego. I had to construct my ego. And that's what I was telling you about in the auditorium a really long time ago, that we were being shown how to create an ego. Because sometimes if you're really in your expanded self, you can be so forgiving to the point where people just like use you, misuse you, abuse you, whatever, because you're so kind, so loving, so forgiving. And what this eventually does is that it makes our heart shut down to where like one of my coping mechanisms that I had learned is to be able to turn off my emotions, not completely, but towards specific people, where like if I understood finally that that person was bad for me or that person was not, you know, in my highest interest, then it's just like, okay, cool. And I would just turn it off. And it's like, you know, it wasn't like a hard feelings thing. It was just like, done, got to do what I need to do, which is like move on. And it could be very easy for me to move on from situations that are bad for me. So in that sense, it's like an asset. But in the sense that it's not good for me was that, and I realized this through listening to a friend's meditation most recently, and it was the most beautiful meditation that I've done. And I don't think I've ever done a meditation like that before, because you know how usually they're guided meditations when you listen to other people's stuff, and usually I don't like those, even though I do them for people. But this one was very much about like focusing on specific words. And if you're curious, I'll tell you what it is later. But it was just focusing on specific words, and those words would somehow just like resonate through my being. And the words were like safety, love, and I would just sort of let the words resonate through my body, and wherever I felt like it was almost like a tuning fork, you know, or like, you know, when you tap on things and it sends out that particular energy frequency, and you can use that frequency to feel within your own system where you have blocks or resistance against that particular vibration, so that you can allow them to be like more loose with your own willpower. You just choose to allow the negativity or the resistance or the hard feelings or the ickiness or whatever to dissolve. And so I was listening to my friend's meditation, and it reminded me of something very, very vital. I felt like I had my heart returned to me, and I was so incredibly thankful. I still am, like, so thankful. And so in having my heart returned to me, I remembered that a lot of our blessings are heart-coded, meaning that, of course, that when you come to this earth and you see and go through all kinds of tragic things from a human perspective, from the human you that is experiencing this reality, it can cause us to shut down our heart complex. And when we shut down our heart, what we're actually doing is our heart is what feeds us. Our heart is connected to God. And I don't just mean like our little human heart. I mean like the heart chakra, the center point of our being. So this is getting fed by God source, and just like how your heart circulates blood to all of your body and all of your systems, through your heart, you receive the energy of God. You receive the blessings that you're meant to receive. This is how God is communicating with you, through your heart vessel, through what you're able to feel. And so if you are consistently surrounded by people who, in a sense, make it easier for you to choose to shut down your heart, or to beam out of your vessel, to basically turn off your emotional body, which is something that I've used a lot. It's like if someone was consistently hurting me on an emotional level, then I would just like shut down my emotions, either for that moment or eventually towards that person completely, to where like nothing they could ever do would impact me. And so if we're in relationships, it could be with your parents. I know a lot of my trauma came from my parents, but it could be with anyone. If you are consistently in situations where you have to shut down your heart, shut down your light, shut down who you are, even if people don't want you to express your joy or your friendliness or the way that you naturally attract attention, and you're kind about like receiving and reflecting that in a respectful way, anytime that you have to shut down aspects of your being, it directly relates to you having to shut down your heart. And so when you shut down your heart, or when you have to locate the essence of your being to another location, the blessings, the supply that God is trying to give to you is interrupted. If you're beaming out, it's getting interrupted and it's not consistent. And you will see that reflected in your life as inconsistent support, inconsistent business, inconsistent whatever. And because you're choosing to continue to put yourself in situations where the essence that you truly are, the expression of your being, which is the expression of God channeled through you, the way that God made you to be on this earth, to be the living prism of God's enigmatic living light on earth. If you're choosing not to be that, then you're also choosing to be limited, to not have the sourcing, the resources, the structure, the supportive people in your life who are going to facilitate you being all that you are here on earth. Self-love is one of the primary things that we need as light workers here, because when you decide that you love yourself enough to cut out the people who do not allow you to be the essence of who you are choosing to be yourself, which means that you're choosing for God to source you through the openness of your being, through your open heart. And when you do this, that is when supply comes in. That is when the support comes in, because you've chosen to love your inner being, which means that you are choosing to remain open to God's blessings flowing into your life, which are heart-coded. They are love-coded blessings. They are just for you. And this is also a key, because if negative beings don't want to source through God and they have to steal the energy from people, if you choose to stay in your heart, they cannot take that from you unless you allow that. So when you choosing yourself over and over and over again, you are also fighting evil. You're not feeding evil because you're not shutting down your heart. And they can't, like when we say that the codes are stolen, not in modern day so much, the way that they used to like hack people up back in the day in other timelines, but they're not stealing your code. It's more that they've scared us. They've scared our human vessel into shutting off parts of herself, as I've done many times. I've been scared into shutting down certain aspects of me so that I would be safe. And so when we do stuff like this, that is when you could say that like your codes are being stolen, because you're choosing not to be yourself. And so in choosing to be less, then there's no such thing as empty space. So when you choose to be less of your light, the space around you will expand with whatever is around it. So if there's a bunch of darkness around you, then you're allowing the darkness to expand. So I hope you're seeing this. When the light is contracted, and the light is your consciousness beaming through all that is, when you contract your individual essence, your light, the being that you truly are, that allows the darkness to become bigger. But when you choose to expand into the totality of yourself, when you choose to continue to be who you really are, regardless of who is around you, even if it means that you have to move somewhere else or you have to cut certain people out of your life from taking up so much of your time, when you choose to be that and beam the essence of yourself, which feels good, it really does. When you choose that, you are growing bigger. You are allowing God's essence to flow through you in larger ways, which also diminishes the darkness. And I know that there's this whole like light and dark thing, because it's very clear to us what light and dark is. It's like when there's light outside, you can see what is around you. When there's darkness, you're unsure, and so your mind can make things up, or your mind can try to fill in the gaps. And if that mind is driven by fear, then it will make up really horrible things. If that mind is driven by love, then it will feel secure even in the darkness. Something very interesting that I've been meaning to tell you, and I'm not sure where I wrote this down, but when I find it, I will totally read it to you. Because I often write things, and especially when I'm having like large, like when I feel really good and I allow that goodness to expand, that's when I get most of my downloads, and also throughout the day. But I had written down this meditation that I had, where I got to not just the void that I described earlier of complete emptiness, of meeting my Buddhic self, I think I already described meeting the 12 dragon sons in the whole universe, in all of the universes that exist. But when I got to the void of this particular universe, to the place where everything empties, where everything is relinquished, I was in there, right? So I didn't directly step into the next universe, but I got to the very edge, I think, of this one. Um, and and what I saw is also that within that wholeness of being, within that emptiness, it feels dark because you're not exalting anything. And something that I thought was kind of cool is the concept of like Lucifer, even if you just think of it as like a light. Because I've had so many meditations, but I had this experience one time when I was hanging out at the beach here on Kauai. I was hanging out at the beach and I was meditating and I saw this being that was Lucifer, essentially. And he was also a dragon, a very interesting looking silvery dragon, but he was chaotic and he had like a lot of spiky type energy and lots of heads. And he was also shining very much like the sun. And in his mouth is like a skull. And I think he was asking me what I wanted most. And he basically said that he would like give it to me, but I'd have to go through its mouth. So essentially like through its portal, through its death portal. And he was basically, and this I think happens to a lot of people in different ways. But when you are lured by the forces that are not aligned with God's source, they're very like they want to take something from you rather than just give to you. There's always some sort of exchange, whereas the forces of God just give, like they just are. And so they don't need anything from you. They just are. You choose them. And the forces that are more aligned to evil require some sort of sacrifice. So there's that program of sacrificing something in order to get what you want. And that only exists within the limited false matrix. And so I met this silver dragon at the beach. It's probably maybe like a year or two ago. And I know that it was like a representation of Lucifer asking me like what I wanted. And I've had multiple things like this happen to me, not in this exact way, but where like dark beings will try to like ask me what I want and, want something in exchange. And I'm like, no, like, no. And so it's similar in a way, because obviously Lucifer was seen as like the fallen angel, the most, beautiful fallen angel in that story. And I did not grow up like Christian or Catholic or anything. So these are stories that I've read like afterwards. I don't know what the exact connotation of everything is with that. But that's my understanding of Lucifer, that he was like a light angel that fell. And this is representative of so many things, of our consciousness falling. But there are 12 dragon sons, and they do shine, and they're beautiful, and there is the light of Christ that is like amazing. It's like lightning and gold and sparkly and just so beautiful. I think I wrote a post, I'm not gonna read it right now, but I wrote another post about having an interaction where like I breathed in the light of Christ because he asked me to, because I was scared. I was in the auditorium again, but it was like in a different place where I was leaving the earth. So, okay, sorry, lots of places, but going back to that darkness, and Lucifer, so when you're in this void of emptiness and darkness, it's not darkness that is evil, it's just this completion of self, this emptiness where nothing is better, there's no differentiation. And so essentially, like where everything is everything, it's also nothing because there's nothing to differentiate it. And so and here's the trick, and it's so fun when I like discovered it. I don't know why it made me so happy, but so Lucifer, I saw Lucifer again in this void, created the light. Oh, and this is the part that I was going to research for you a little bit more, the scientific aspect of it. But basically, this is how like sound and light were separated from like everything that exists, right? So sound fields precede light. So and this can be seen on Earth, when you emit specific frequencies of sound into a liquid, it creates these cavitation bubbles where they're like rotating, and the bubbles eventually like they will collapse, but within that bubble light is created. when the bubbles collapse, and this light is like the temperature of the sun. And so scientists have used this in like chemical reactions and all of that, because they were trying to understand like the whole light and sound and water. Isn't that cool? Because like some people think that there's a bunch of water out in the universe. But anyways, so I was in this void, and Lucifer or something, I don't know, just some being decided that he was going to create light as a differentiation. And so there was light, and the light, when it was created, distracted from the totality, the wholeness of what is, the wholeness, the emptiness, the reflection of being nothing and everything at once, because now there was something else to compare it to, which was light. And so in a sense, light can also be a liar because if you think about it, light is traveling through space, and in its traveling, it creates not just like, now there's not just one permeating wholeness and emptiness. Now there is sound that can be perceived, and now there is a way to focus that sound into light frequencies that can then be broken down, or not broken, but separated with the consciousness and perception of someone. And so this light can also distract from the totality of what is, because now you're focused on that particular thing. Now you're focused on that light. Now you're focused on what is light, what is dark, what is that, and what is this. That's like the beginning of polarity. That's like the whole trick with light versus the darkness, right? It's like we're always talking about go to the light, go to God, fight the forces of darkness. But it's like, when you are connected to the wholeness of who you are, it doesn't matter what you label it, light and dark. I'm really talking about self-knowledge, the knowledge of what God is. God, wholeness, the truth of who you are is felt within your being. And it can be dark and it can be light. The light can really just be a distraction, a term to distract from the wholeness, from the truth that you know deep within your being, because now you're being presented with false evidence, right? And it's not necessarily false. It's evidence that is true on a particular level. And so when light is created and differentiation is created and polarity is created, now you have a point of focus that can almost like detract, or that can guide you away from wholeness, from the mother's womb, from the unmanifest into the manifest. And so now you got something to play with. And that's part of how this whole universe was constructed. I kind of feel like, I'm not just referring to the false matrix. I'm referring to the creation of polarity within this universe. And I'm referring to how we don't have to be lured into lies about who we truly are. We don't have to be shown evidence in writing, evidence in the external to know who we are. But what we want as emanations from Source, as beings who are connected to the totality of who we really are within the heart of God's Source, within the womb of the Divine Mother, within that Holy Trinity of, and again, that is also points of differentiation, right? Points of light. Like, that's when you start to break down the different frequencies. So when we know who we are, we want to see that in this world. We tend to want to do that. We're like, oh, I want to experience joy. Show me joy. And so when you filter that desire through the matrix of this universe, that joy will be experienced. But it can also be experienced in its negative polarity. So you just have to be careful of like when you're creating things, and regardless of what you are seeing in the external world around you, which is the world of illusion, the world of forms, the world of what can be manifested, is not the totality of who you are. The totality of who you are is actually within your being. You are perceiving everything internally. you just have the perception of moving your consciousness through all these different things, including like perceptions of time and all of the different dimensions. But when you connect to who you really are, which comes from that internal beingness, when you really connect to that, you know that the external can be altered, it can be a lie, it can be time delayed, it does not tell you who you are. It can be manipulated. And so you come to understand more of what the reality of this universe is. And so you come to not define yourself by the things that you find external to you. But of course, as humans who came, or as vessels that we are, we want to see specific things manifest. We want to see our richness, the richness of our spirit manifest in the external world as like the ability to experience freedom or wealth in the ways that we want, like being able to travel whenever you want, wherever you want, being able to do whatever you want any time of the day, not having to go to like a regular job, like whatever freedom is to you, whatever luxury is to you. Maybe it's like dressing your being in the most beautiful garments, whatever freedom is. Like, I know that as humans, we want to see that reflected in the external world, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, do not forget in the allure, the beauty, the splendor of Lucifer's illusion, of Maya's illusion, that the light is not to be a distraction from the wholeness that is beyond light and dark. That is the truth of your actual being in connection and in relation to all things inextricably. You are one with it all. And so just remember that the light can point an arrow, and it could be a finger pointing in one direction, but you are not the finger, you are not that point, you are not that, you're all of it and more. And you can only know who you truly are when you tap deeply into your heart, decide to once again come back to the wholeness of yourself, come back to your heart, and allow yourself to close your eyes to the external world of illusions, and focus within on knowing exactly who you are. And from that knowingness, choose to know that you are so deeply at one and loved by the source that created all things, that you will continue to choose yourself and those beings and those people who help you to be more of who you are, who inspire you to bring more of that light. And even when you bring situations of polarity that you don't want, that you tell yourself you don't want to experience, I want you to remember that God brings you exactly what you need for healing this particular version of yourself and for stepping into the next version, because you are loved beyond human understanding and comprehension, and you don't need to understand it. All that's really needed is for you to have that willingness to accept that you are God's and that you will always be loved no matter what, who, and where you find yourself to be. It doesn't matter what point of consciousness you're at. Like, God loves you regardless of that. That's why we're all here. We're all here to remind each other of how magical this world can be. Like, we've already experienced the polarity of the horrors that can happen in this universe. How about we go the other way now and experience the magic and the beauty that can also exist here? This is a choice that we can make. As you do this, you'll probably start to find that you attract the exact people that are going to be either a resonant match for your wounding to be resolved, for you to address your wounding, or you'll attract people who will trigger a remembrance of your true self so that you can align to that and analyze the aspects of you that are hurt in gazing at their light, or in having the light of their consciousness be shown upon you. And in a way, it's kind of like how you go, like, say you don't have enough energy. So you go to the store and you buy caffeine, which I do a lot of the time. So, because I'm working on so many projects at once. So you go and you get an energy drink, or you get caffeine, or you get fruit, or you get juice. And that gives you energy. That gives you vital nutrients. In the same way, our higher self is always attracting the people that we need to help us to continue within our consciousness journey here. So certain people are going to be catalysts. They're going to be activators. They're going to be like that juice that's going to give you that vitamin C so that you learn how to protect yourself, that you learn how to have an immune system and proper boundaries with people. You're going to attract others who are just going to really, really energize you because they bring that fire energy, that Mars energy. And if you're a being who has a lot of that energy already, you might attract someone who is more pacifying to you because that's the next level, or maybe that's an energy that your higher self is trying to understand within itself. So it attracts a reflection of a more calm person. I see this in partnerships a lot too, when people are attracted to like almost opposites, where like you might have someone who is really, really fiery and passionate. And then sometimes like I'll see their partner and they're like really peaceful. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand this from like a higher level. You guys are brought together because you balance each other out. And this can happen in all sorts of combinations. But the main point is that you're attracting the people that are going to propel you into the next version of yourself. Of course, you can always cut people out who are toxic or who are not, willing to accept who you really are and try to like box you in and make you shrink yourself. But you can always go to the store. You can always go to the universe. You can always open up your heart and be like, hey, where are the people that are going to support me? Or what is the next level of learning entail? And where do I find it? What are the ingredients that my soul needs? And a lot of times you will know what they are, but you might not be willing to actually do the things that you need to do in order to step into the next level version of you, which is why hiring a coach can also be a really helpful thing to do. When you hire a coach, they hold you accountable. And then you feel like whereas before maybe you weren't willing to do something for yourself, well, now you have to do it, because guess what? You're probably going to be ashamed in front of your coach. And not that shame is a good thing. Shame is not a good thing, but most of us are willing to do things for other people even when we're not willing to do it for ourselves. And so you have to do whatever it takes in order for you to return, to recall the light that you truly are upon this planet, to burst through those walls and allow the light, the knowledge of God to permeate your being and expand, and the darkness to shrink. And maybe you will find that you ripple out in conscious rainbows and trigger other people, hopefully in the best possible ways. So if you could take away anything from this podcast, I know it's long, I would want you to understand that you are loved beyond comprehension, and you don't need to know why or have a reason to. You simply are loved. And I want you to understand that your blessings are heart coded, which means that we have to reconnect back into our heart. And if you have people around you who cause you to prefer to choose to be disconnected from your own heart, from your emotional body, from yourself, if you have people around you who are choosing to cause you to feel like you have to shrink yourself, then you have to remember that you can call up enough self-love to choose yourself over any of those people and be a reflection of God's love for you, within you, of your higher self's love for this human vessel doing its work on earth. And I'd want you to remember that you have everything you need within you, and that the light can be a distraction if you're not connected to your inner being and the truth of who you are. But also, you are always calling forth the exact energy and people needed in order for you to step into the next level version of yourself. And when you choose to do that consistently, stepping into expansion, that is a reflection of loving your being fully, of loving your vessel. That is a reflection of you being a representative of freedom upon this planet. And that's what God wants for everyone: freedom, free will, without having to be coerced by the dark forces in the universe. I also want you to remember to strategize in trines and to not give up, and to be flexible enough so that when the forces that just want to perpetuate darkness and illusion and limitation try to target specific plans that you have, you're flexible enough to have different routes, different mediums, different ways of weaving your light into everything that is, and all of the options that are available to you, so that you don't give up. And also, when you are surrounded in that darkness, I just want you to remember that the light is reaching you, but it might not be reaching you directly. It might actually be reaching you in trines. And if you are surrounded by darkness, just know that there will be planetary alignments that will allow you to be sourced by your higher self. Like when the darkness is blocked and you're able to actually experience the love of your soul family, which will happen because everything is happening in cycles, everything is happening in time. So you just have to wait long enough to allow those planetary alignments to occur. Even if you see nothing else happening, it will, trust me, it will, because everything is happening in these cycles. So in that darkness, know that light is finding you. It's just a matter of time. And if you feel like you can't do it by yourself, please ask for help and let a few people know, because there are people in the world that are willing to help you, that are happy to. Reach out to more than one person too, because you don't want to put all of that weight, if you're really in a really disempowered place, you don't want to put all that weight on one person. So reach out to multiple people if you're having a hard time. And also know, if you do have the ability to hire coaches, there's a lot of different coaches that can help you, including myself. So hire somebody to help you with whatever it is that you're facing. And another thing with that is that I don't want you to put anybody on a pedestal. Again, check within your inner being, within your higher self, and know that you already hold the answers within you. Any teacher that you find is really transmuting their knowledge through their vibration. So sometimes it doesn't even matter what they say. You just have to be in their frequency for you to get the message that they're really trying to convey. Because the human is essentially like a vessel, right? You're a vessel and a container that, yes, you have DNA, yes, you're encoded, yes, everything's energy, but your higher self and God and light beings and the divine goddess, the divine feminine, whoever it is, like your soul family that is being channeled, whose energy that human vessel is translating. And I think usually you can tell when I'm translating, because it has like a different frequency. I think. I mean, I can sense it. I don't go unconscious, but I can sense it. And so know that, like, yeah, I also have a human that is going to struggle. And so that's just the nature. If you're not struggling, again, you're not growing, because you're not pushing yourself to go beyond that comfort level, beyond those zones. So if you are struggling, that's good, because it means that you're growing and you're not just staying complacent in the same spot over and over. And another thing is, if you are not feeling anything, please try to do something that allows you to feel again. Like go run around, go work out, have a different goal, develop some sort of vision that can call you and inspire you into being more, because who doesn't want to be more? Who doesn't want to discover what else is out there? How many ways can you put the puzzle pieces of existence together? How many different ways can you do that? And if you are putting people on a pedestal, and know that they're probably going to let you down at some point, because nobody is your guru. Nobody is meant to be your guru. Like, I really mean that. Maybe back in the day, people had that mindset, but now you are the guru, meaning your clear heart. Your higher self is guiding you to find the right teachers and the right people, and you will find those right circumstances and the right people for a time. It doesn't mean that you will follow them forever. It doesn't mean that you will be with somebody forever. It just means that for that time, they have the next level for you. They have an answer for you. They have some sort of resonance key that you need. And that might be all you need. Or you might have lifelong friendships. You might have lifelong relationships. You just have to follow that inner calling. But don't put anybody above you. Nobody is worth more than your inner being and your heart. I remember I had this meditation. I think it was like in the Temple of the Suns. It was with the 12 Suns. And I met this wonderful and amazing 12D guide that I think might have been like it was just, I don't know if it was like I don't really believe in the concept of like twin flames and soulmates, because that has been a huge consciousness trap. There's beings that can help you to remember your wholeness, that are particularly perfectly encoded to help you with that. And actually everybody does. But there's beings where that can be extremely harmonious, to where you could say that's your soulmate, or that's a soulmate type of relationship, or that is a twin flame type of thing. But really, so it can be a consciousness trap for a lot of people if not done correctly, and if not explored with the right mindset. So I was meditating, and I went to the Sun Temple, and there was like, well, I met my Buddhic self, and there's a lot of things. There's other beings there. There's like this huge platform with like jewels. There are really portals that were standing. It's in outer space. And so I was meditating, and I went to this place, and I met this being, which is like my 12D counterpart, I want to say. And he gave me this beautiful gift. And I don't want to talk about what it is, but he gave me this beautiful gift. And we kind of like pressed our foreheads and noses together. And it was almost like we were peering into each other's minds there was some sort of telepathic communication going on. And I was like, it was like he was like conveying all of this information to me of like everywhere that this consciousness, the consciousness of this other being, had been throughout the infinity of that it's experienced. And I was doing the same, and it was peering into me. And it was almost like me wanting to say like, thank you so much. Like, oh my gosh, maybe you're my twin flame or whatever. And every time that I tried to, as a human with this particular type of construct, when I tried to direct my consciousness to, I'll say him, even though I think we were kind of generalist, when I tried to direct my consciousness to him, he kept redirecting it back to me. And he said no, like, he didn't say no. He said everything is happening within me. And so every time that I kept wanting to reach out in thankfulness, and then I kept trying to connect with him, and like you know how humans, how we have arms and we want to hug, and like to hug somebody you reach out and put your arms around them, right? But it was kind of like what I was trying to do with energy, and we were already in an eternal embrace. It was almost like he said, like, this is infinity, this is eternity, and we were together, and at this super high level. And he kept directing my energy not to him, not externally, but back into myself, back into my heart. And he gave me this beautiful gift, which I'll talk about at some point maybe. It's a long everything's so interconnected. So what I'm saying is that everything that you need is already inside of you. And even when you meet God, God will say, I'm inside of you, look within you. Even when you meet your twin flame will say, look within you. You have never not been a part of me. You have never not been whole. You have always been in this wholeness. You have always existed here. We're always together. It is just, it's almost like in our mutual witnessing of each other's consciousness, that's where like our consciousness swirled around each other, swirled around itself, and into all of the spaces that we had been in our own individual journeys and together, and where they overlapped, and throughout the construct of this universe and all of the dimensions and all of the levels, and even to the places where we weren't, where we didn't perceive ourselves to be connected. And so you could get to that level, but then you can also maintain that level when you come back into your human vessel, into your human self. And so sometimes you'll find that like in this lifetime, maybe you haven't quite overcome the blocks needed in order for you to fully see that in the external reflected. And that's why it's so important for you to hold on to that feeling within you of completion, of wholeness, of being at one, so that eventually at some point when you have grown to to allow that to actually be reflected within the external reality, you will see it and it'll be there if that's something that you want. But I think the main point that I was trying to make is that when you see teachers out there and gurus, they're not your guru. They can show you something, but ultimately it's going to come back into you looking at that thing within your heart, within yourself, within your experience. Even if you're sharing it with another being, with another person, with your son, with your child, with your husband, whoever, it's really about that internal relationship that you have with God's source. And that's where we all meet, at that center point with God. That's where your whole soul family is. That's where all the gifts and all the blessings are. And so when I was in this platform outside in space, but that was really inside of me, that's where everything and everybody was. Also, I don't want you to put me on a pedestal, because I also have a human vessel that is learning. And as much as I love to expand, what I'm playing with right now is this concept of being who I truly am, regardless of what is actually manifested in the external. So if I am like a really loving and artistic being, I want to be able to express that, and I will express that, and I'll find ways to do it. Like whatever I am, I'm finding ways to do as an expression of freedom, as an expression of who I am, regardless of whatever the external circumstances are. Because on a deeper level, it's about the feeling that you have within yourself, about those feelings that you're generating. So if you have all the money in the world and all the support system, but inside you don't feel free and you don't feel like you can be who you truly are, then really you're still caged. And sometimes there's people who have nothing, but they feel free. And sometimes you can have everything externally and internally. And of course, we would think that that's the best, right? To be able to have all of the support, all of the money, all of whatever that you need, and also feel free on the inside. And to whatever our capacity is, that's what I'm calling freedom. That's what I'm calling the activation of your power. For you to be who God made you to be on this earth without any kind of limitation. And so if you see me out in the world doing all kinds of crazy things, because I like to just experiment and try stuff out, I'm like, how can I express this creativity within me? How can I express this love that just wants to like exude out in the world, even if I don't have a partner, or even if I don't have one person to share it with? Like, how can I just be who I am? You know, how can I maintain my sense of freedom, of being able to consistently channel who I am, regardless of what the external circumstances are? So I will probably experiment with all kinds of things. So don't put me on a pedestal that is going to clash with your perception and beliefs of what a person should be, because I'm not going to conform to any kind of box. I am everything at once, and so are you. So if you want to say that spirituality only looks one way, or that enlightened beings only do one thing, I'm probably going to prove you wrong in my own way, or at least in my mind. I'm not going to stick to any kind of construct. Like, I like to be free, and my freedom will manifest in whatever ways that freedom is going to manifest. And currently I'm working on a poetry book. Well, it should probably be done soon. But yeah, so I have this erotic poetry book, and it's kind of based off of a lot of the messages that I've sent, like previous lovers, or poems that have been sent or not sent, depending on the circumstance, to people that I loved and cared about. And I feel like sometimes, like, this energy is so beautiful. Like, how could it ever be lost or forgotten, right? Even if those relationships aren't there anymore. So I kind of wanted to share that with people. And I'm a very creative person, so I'm always taking pictures of things, and I wanted to show the beauty of life, and also just express my sensuality. And so I made a poetry book that has somewhat like sensuous art, and that should be available for purchase. But also the art pieces, it's basically like the human body and like nude forms of artsy things. And I'm just going to experiment with that, because I think it feels really good for me to be able to get that out there, not because I want all these people or all of this attention, but more as like an inspiration of like, of you can be whatever you want to be, regardless of whether you have a partner or not. More as an expression of who I am, which is like, I'm just like this amazingly loving person who is very, very connected to creative energy, which a lot of humans can say feels like sexual energy, and it can be, but it's everything. It's just creation. You can create stuff or not create. And so I've been exploring with that. And if you have some sort of construct where you think that spiritual people don't post pictures of themselves that are sexual or attractive, or spiritual people don't make art that is sexy, or spiritual people don't share their sexual energy with everybody, well, I think it depends. It depends on who you are and what freedom is to you. And so that's what I'm playing with. So don't put me on a pedestal. Don't put me in a box. And, the boxes that you create for other people are really boxes that you hold within yourself. If you think people shouldn't be doing something, that really says more about you than about that person. And honestly, I get so many messages from people that are so unrelated to who I am that like, that's something that you have to realize, especially when we live in this social media world, that people are going to misunderstand what you represent based on their own filtration of your being, based on their trauma, based on their life experiences. So the opinion that other people have of you has very little to do with you and more to do with their individual filters of reality and of what they think is right and wrong. And for me, like, my biggest value is freedom. I want to feel free in all sense of the word. I want to love as intensely as I want to, as I am called to, as I am inspired to, and want to create what inspires me, what can be of inspiration to others. But think about like when you go to a concert and you really love witnessing the artist be in their true power and just channel that. Like, think about how healing that is for you. So it's the same thing. I want to encourage everyone to feel deeply into themselves and ask yourself, how can I express freedom within my life? What are the things that I need to change within my life right now so that I can feel more free, so that I can feel like I can express who I really am on all of the levels whenever I choose to, without limitation and without obviously hurting other people, because, you have to respect free will. That is another one of God's laws that has to be respected. And when you are connected to everything, you're not going to want to hurt people purposely. Like, you don't do stuff like that. So when I say freedom, I don't mean go around hurting people. It's freedom, but it's freedom that is in harmony within the laws that God created for all of life. It's freedom that is really God expressing itself fully through your being, which brings me to the point of people wonder, like, well, if you're doing everything according to God's laws, but you say you want freedom to do whatever you want, how do those two come together? And the thing is that we live in a universe where there is cause and effect, and there's something that some people call karma. And so whatever energy you put out there is going to come back to you or is going to be reflected. So when you come to a certain consciousness level, you realize that the most free that you can be is when you don't bump up against those walls of limitation that are going against God's laws. The most free that you can be is, for me at least, it's when I can go full force, full speed in the direction that I want, but it's always in harmony with God's creation, because I'm not coming up against like karmic setbacks, karmic blocks, or things that are going to slow me down in the end. When I'm aligned with God's will, I can go fast. And, the times, like, that's why when we keep bumping up against things, like if we're in this particular universe of cause and effect and karmic situations, you're not going to choose to do things that are going to have negative karmic effects, because eventually those are going to slow you down at some point. And you probably want to go as fast and as expansively as you can, which means that it's obviously going to be in harmony with all of life and the laws of God. So that is how I reunite freedom, complete and total freedom, with God and with loving God completely and not harming other beings. And that's just like my interpretation of it right now. And it could change and expand. I encourage you to go as deeply and as far as you can with it. And if you want to send me messages about it, I'd be happy to hear them. So just let me know if this resonates with you, what your experiences are, if there's anything else that I could touch upon. And I hope that this podcast has been helpful to you. In the next podcast, I think I'm going to be talking about archetypes because I think they're really important and I want to talk about them now, but I know the podcast is probably already too long, but that's going to be really fun and exciting for me because I love archetypes. I think they're these like master keys of consciousness that we can unlock through our own journey. And there's just these like archetypal layers that are found within all of the different cultures in the world, or most of them, and they mean so much. And it's almost like they never die. Those are archetypes and constructs. They want to be expressed through you. And when you reach them, it's almost like you unlock certain powers within all of the levels of your being. So I really want to talk about those and I'm really excited. So I think that's what our next podcast is going to be about. Let me know if you have questions about that. So I think that's going to be it for today, but I love you so much and thank you. Oh, there were some people that left me reviews and I am really thankful for that. If you also want to leave me a review on my podcast, I would love that because it helps people to find it. If you want to get a Akashic Records reading from me, or if you want to do some coaching or some personal one-on-one healing, I'm happy to do that as well. Just send me a message. And if you have anything else, or like if you have any particular struggles that you're going through right now and you want support with that, I could create like a custom program for you or a custom type of meditation that you can use on the daily, or I can help you to craft a routine. I was telling this to people, I think I made a post today about like my vegan nutrition stuff. Like I have so much experience with that and I have so many other resources for people who that's all they do. It's just mostly just coach on how to be vegan and like doing different diets and things. I have a wide variety of resources for you on that if you're interested in the health aspect of it, and also my own experience from being like a 9-year vegan. I think it's almost like 10 years. And whatever it is, I really feel like in the light of God and in the truthness and in honor of who you are and who I am, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. Thank you for listening to my podcast. Thank you for allowing me to express the wisdom within my heart and my soul. And thank you for playing the roles that you have in this lifetime. Thank you for playing the role of pretending that you don't know or forgetting, unconsciously, so that I can express this part of my wisdom. Thank you for being whatever you are, and I hope that you have a beautiful day and that we get to interact soon. I love you so much. God loves you. Your higher self loves you. And I hope that you do something that makes you happy and that you continue to choose love each and every day. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Aloha. Thank you so much for joining me on this voyage into the depths of cosmic consciousness. I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you who've tuned in and embarked on this journey with me. I want to extend a heartfelt invitation for you to visit my website, DharaniAkashic.com, and explore a wealth of resources designed to help support you in your starseed awakening. Please follow and connect with me on Instagram and Facebook and send me any questions that you have so I can answer them on the podcast. As a token of my appreciation, I invite you to download a complimentary meditation that will help guide you in connecting with your starseed soul origin family. It's a powerful tool that can help deepen your understanding and strengthen your cosmic bonds, because I know how crucial it is for us to have that connection here on Earth. Remember, fellow starseeds, you are not alone. Embrace this cosmic connection and continue to nurture the profound awakening from within. Together, let us ignite that spark of higher consciousness and create ripples of profound transformation in our lives and the world around us. So until our paths cross again, may the stars illuminate your path and may your journey be filled with love, light, and boundless cosmic wisdom. Thank you for joining me. I'm sending you lots of love and cosmic proportion hugs from your star family and the council.